President Obama sends more US troops to Afghanistan to help with the opium harvest. Security. In the UK, Bank of England calls for anal lubrication. Printing money. Quantitative easing. Revolution unnecessary, say shadowy puppet masters. A little unrest maybe, but we can handle you. Hello, powerless minions. Welcome to the fucking news. I'm fomenting discontent. Here are the headlines tonight. President Obama has announced he's sending 17,000 extra troops to Afghanistan to help raise the price of heroin on the world market. Stamp out opium production in Afghanistan. What's that? Isn't that the same thing? USUC is a victim of its own success with regard to heroin production in Afghanistan. The Taliban virtually eliminated it, and then after the US invaded, opium production soared, year after year. The price dropped across the world, and a gram of heroin can now be bought for as little as £25, with the average price somewhere between 40 and 50 per gram. In 1998, the average was 74, so if we want to pay off our collective bailout debt with drug money, that will never do. President Obama went on not to say, drugs make a lot of money, unless they're legal, and there are lots of them. So it's important to the global criminal overlords whose spawn I am that we reduce supply, increase demand, and enforce their illegal status as a cover for our drug operation in Afghanistan. Let me tell you, it's all about the Taliban and how they hate us and our way of life. Yes, they do. And we can't allow that. So we will kill them all, or make them love us by occupying their country and oppressing them and their wacky beliefs, which are so different from ours. God bless America and the talking snake that caused us to live on Earth. I know we could leave them alone, tap their phone calls, monitor their activities like we do to you folks at home, but I feel it would be much better use of your money to stay here and protect these important opium resources. Eradicate oversupply on behalf of the shadowy puppet masters whose checks got me elected. In the UK, trillions of new debt for the British people as bank bailouts take national debt to 2 trillion or 150% of GDP. This barely causes a stir amongst the poodles. See, they're such nice people. But it won't be enough, and the Bank of England knows it, which is why it called for quantitative easing. Sounds really nice. Wouldn't you like to slip into some quantitative easing, darling? I bet it tastes or smells great. Give your man quantitative easing if you love him. But what does it really mean? The bank says it might be helpful to increase the supply of money, since putting every resident of Britain into debt when you print a pound doesn't seem to bother anyone. So let's make as much as we like. Hurrah! Fetch me a peasant girl. I'd like to fuck one for real. Ha ha ha. By acquiring emergency stakes in major banks such as RBS, HBOS and Lloyds, taxpayers took over responsibility for their debts. How convenient for those who know how big a debt that really is. If the assets of our state-owned banks fall in value by just 1%, it will wipe 20 billion off their value, costing the taxpayer 20 billion. If the bank assets fall in value by 5%, the taxpayer loses 100 billion, the equivalent of running the NHS for a year. If they fall in value by 25%, could that happen? The taxpayer loses 500 billion and the UK will be a bankrupt collection of slaves, indebted and controlled by whichever hovering banking dynasty picks up the tab. In a totally related story, the monopoly money economic crisis, the Walt Disney War on Terror, the fascist erosion of civil liberties, rich to richer poverty adjustment, devalued imaginary investments, voodoo mumbo-jumbo world leader morons armed with nukes and many other frightening movies playing out in our collective reality are just a series of unconnected events, which nobody could have foreseen, no one warned us about, and no one suggested better ways to behave or arrange our life on Earth. None of these events have any connection with dynasties of powerful wanking families, banking families, or the web of royalty stretching back 1,000 years. They don't. And you'd be a fool or a communist to think so. Although these people have the power to control, manipulate, dominate and or influence most of the trade, government, religion and media of your country, and historically they have a very bad reputation for that sort of thing, they're not doing it. Not anymore, honestly. So, please don't be upset as your civil liberties are taken away. Don't be pissed off that you can no longer have a private telephone conversation, or email correspondence, or bank account. Don't be too worried about the debt we say you must pay, and alarmed when we tell you how much more you'll have to give in the future. Try not to let it get to you that we lied about going to war, and many other things. Repeat, repeat, repeatedly. And that all your political leaders believe in imaginary beings and want to destroy the planet simply to make money. As we tell you, your freedom must be taken away for reasons of fatherland security, mein Führer! I mean national security, and to ensure our economic Reich, gut Gott, mein! I mean stability. Multi-trillion-dollar or pound bailouts that place your lives and the lives of your children and their children's children under the yoke of debt, taxation and servitude are necessary to meet the global demand for slavery. I mean growth. In debtalism. I mean capitalism. Now, there have been reports of a little unrest in Latvia, Iceland, Greece, France and other tax franchises, and it's understandable that some of you are angry. But don't push it! You will shortly be facing much harder times with unemployment, relative poverty, rationing of freedom, privacy, travel, food, fuel, health, wealth, happiness, and the pursuit of life. I'm sure I don't need to remind everybody that violence never accomplished anything, except founding our country, taking over the lands of others, removing the leaders of other countries, imposing our institutions and will oversee, rescuing people from slavery, overthrowing Nazi dictators, defeating fascism, and some other stuff. This is the only way, so suck it up. Now, fuck off back to the soup kitchen or we'll cut your bread ration. There will be no revolution, but if it makes you feel better, feel free to cry a little and moan to your neighbour about the good old days. Thanks. Now the weather. Debt, slavery, poverty, environmental decay, war, fascism, tyranny with voodoo mumbo jumbo for all. And that's just for Israel under their new right-wing government. Have a nice weekend.